Uh, Welcome students to the session of software engineering and project management. I'm sharing my desktop with you. We are going to continue with yesterday's uh, topic from where we left yesterday. So let's see what we can see here. So yesterday we have seen the different metrics, software project estimation for that, and then in project estimation the decomposition. So we are going to see what is this decomposition here, uh, and then we are going to see this. So first thing is that what is decomposition technique or what is divide and conquer approach of software estimation. So whenever you are running a software is a product, yes, and this if this is a piece of software, first involvement in this software is of what we call as a development team, because this development team is actually involved in the software. The second involvement in this software is what we call as a stakeholder, and generally these stakeholders we call them as the financiers, because they somehow provide money to design and develop this software. Then you are having the customers who are actually involved in the software. Well, this when is a financer or stakeholder, this is actually the entire set. So you may have the shareholders, you may have the different peoples, and likewise. So when it comes to project estimation, customer is the buyer. Okay, but customer generally comes in a picture afterwards. Let's say suppose you go to this financier with your idea. Now your idea is to design and develop a software which enables the small business owners to what you can say give or we can say to sell their products on the different what you can say cities in a different cities through web. Okay, now that means say suppose you are having a small and you are simpler product. You are not a business. You are not having any go downs. You are not having any what you can say items to sell. So what you are having a facility or a service or a website which enables these small business owners who if get registered with you to sell their products anywhere. For example, say suppose I am a business owner in Wagoli, but I want to sell my product in the entire world. Okay, so what I will choose, I will register myself with Amazon. In the same way, you have created this service. Now, one financer said, yes, there is Amazon, there is Snapdeal, there is Flipkart. Why not we? Let's try with the model. And this financer said, okay, I am ready to finance you for this product development, and you created a simple website. Now let's call this website which enables you to cover the entire Pune city and and Pune district also. So what all the small hawkers, small business owners, local what you can say vendors, they can register on your site, and now they can get the customers from their local market as well as from the other cities. Now, this you require when you go to decomposition and divide and conquer approach for this project estimation, you require to identify what number of lines of code, number of function points, number of what you can say the money involved in design and developing this software, and based on that you require to create the estimation, because you require to give this estimation to your financer, the set of financiers. Now let's say you can tell them that to design and develop the software you require to have at least 2 to 3 lakh rupees, and you have to have at least 1 to 2 month. Okay, now here when you say 1 to 2 month, 2 to 3 lakh rupees, business collapses. Okay, so you have to give the what you can say, concise and something. So you say maximum 3 months, like that, or minimum 3 months. So you should have to give the things in terms of minimum. So you say that is to design and develop minimum 2 months and 2 lakh rupees required. Financiers say, oh no, 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 we can't finance you for that, and likewise. So that is what we call as a project estimation, and you have to calculate all these things uh, mm, practically. So let's see what this goes with. And so this decomposition techniques, when you say, so we actually decompose this project into major functions and the related softwares. Okay. Uh, Major functions and related softwares, engineering activities, cost and effort estimation. This can be performed in stepwise fashion. So this model is based on experience, what we call as an historical data, and that takes the form. If D is the estimation, it says is a function of VI, where this effort, cost, project duration, everything is considered. So what we tell our financer that we require here the 2 months, that is what you can say, the project duration, and you are said there is cost required is a minimum cost is 2 lakh rupees, and the effort is that is you require to work daily for 5 hours, a man hour. 5 man hours means we are considering that is 5 men are working for a 1 hour. That is what we call as a 5 man hours. Okay, so now when you say in terms of man hours, and if you say the 5 hours per day, and you require three people, that means you are actually working 15 hours per day. Okay, so that is what we call as the D, and these are calculated in terms of line of code and FP. So let's say for a function which satisfy the desired result, you said you are going to pay 100 rupees. Okay, and for a line of code you are going to pay for 1000 lines of code, say 10 rupees. So what you can say, if the person write down the 1000 lines of code, is get the 10 rupees, and if that 1000 lines of code create the proper function, it gives the 100 rupees. So 110 rupees is what you can say the remuneration given to that particular person, and likewise. So this is what the calculation is generally, commercial calculation is done like that. But empirical estimation models, which can be used to complement these decomposition techniques. So empirical means practical estimation. So practical estimations are generally did by following the already done or already existing models. For example, let's say suppose you want to build a simple house. Okay, then you can see from your neighborhood and from your economical circle, whoever built the house, and you can estimate from that, and that is what we call say empirical. So automated estimation tools are implemented based on this. Each of the viable software cost estimation option is only as good as the historical data used to seed the estimate. And if no historical data exists, costing rests on a very shaky foundation. Decomposition approach has two different points of view. First, the decomposition of the problem, and the decomposition of the process estimation that uses one or both forms of partitioning. So before going onwards, I want to say that this software decomposition is also beneficial in terms of what you can say sizing for the development. Let's say suppose if you are having a code which is having 1000 lines or 10,000 lines or 1 lakh lines. Okay, one person is not going to type that. So instead that, if you decompose this into the smaller functions, smaller modules, or smaller you can say code lines, then it is quite easy, and collaborative development for the software is easy. So accuracy of software project estimate is predicted on following things. First, the degree to which you have properly estimated the size of the product. Second, the ability to translate the size estimate into human effort. That means how much human hours or man hours are actually required to create a particular type of function. Maybe your function seems to be very easy. For example, let's say suppose if you want to design and develop a calendar function, the man hours required maybe 1 month or maybe 2 days, depend upon the expertization of the particular persons in that thing. But if you are more expert, your remuneration will be high. For example, a person who know the particular computer language and the things, you require to pay them in a time, in a dollars actually, so or in a rupees, and that is what we can see calendar time as something. Then you require to go with the degree to which this project plan reflects the abilities of the software team. So you require to hire and like and the stability of the product requirements. So these are the few points that accuracy of software project estimate is going on. So if you see the degree, what we can say here, the degree to which you have properly estimated the size, okay, size of the product. So many times what happens, we consider that is, let's say suppose if you go with the same e-shopee application that we considered for design and development, the degree to which you have properly estimated the size is we say 10 pages, few pages, 1 MB, 1 GB, whatever the size of your site you decided, because you are considering with the e-commerce, and there are too many products, too many you can see customers, too many buying and selling transactions, too many order rejection, and so on. The proper estimation of the size is impossible. Yes, it is utterly difficult because every now and then, few customers will join your site, few customers will leave your site, and so the size of your entire site will go on increasing or decreasing accordingly. So you have to find out a mean and how to give the flexibility there. So a degree to which you have properly estimated. When this estimation is impossible or very difficult, you still have to consider the mean of what you can say things. So let's consider that at any given time you are having the customer base of 10,000 and you can say vendor base of 5,000 vendors. So 10,000, 5,000 vendors, and if you consider the each one require at least 15 MB of data, okay, then you come up with the size, estimated size of your project to store the data database, and likewise and accordingly you can go for the estimation. Then ability to translate this size estimate into human effort. Let's say suppose you want to create the website now, or this web project for the just like an Amazon. Then what is the size estimate into human effort to create the website for the particular operation, or to create the things you have the website to show, and you are having these different things to see. Here you will go. Today we are having very less attendees, only 42, because I think system has stopped those people from entering who forgotten to pay something, or what to say. Uh, there is some standards and likewise. So okay, we will go with this. Maybe into 2 3 days it will regulate. So the ability to translate the size estimate into human effort. Then the degree to which the project plan reflects the ability of the software team. So suppose you are the team and you want to design and develop all those things, but your software team, okay, abilities, your software team don't know certain technologies. In that case, it will require more time, and so more time means more money, and likewise. And the stability of the product requirements. If your product is very dynamic in nature, then your estimations will you require to continuously change your estimation, and if it is stable, then and then only you can estimate it correctly, else or otherwise not. So there is a fuzzy logic sizing. It is given by Putnam and Mess, four different approaches. Fuzzy logic sizing says that it's totally depend upon the market size, and how market size here means how customers respond to your application and what is the thing. So it may change. Likewise, function point sizing is there. That means based on the different type of functions, you can estimate the size of your application. Then second is a change sizing. Change means the approach is used when project encompasses the use of existing software, or likewise. So you are hiring the services of the other software, then that is called as change sizing, and you can go for that also. Then there is a standard component sizing, which you can go with the standard components of any software that you can find out in the particular area. Project planner estimate these sizes of different type of components in the thing, and every components, because they are standard, maybe those components are already designed and developed. So you simply have to collaborate with these components for your application. So components are like subsystem, modules, screens, reports, interactive programs, batch file programs, and likewise. So you can use the line of code or you can use the function point data for this. First is the estimation variable to size each element. Second is the baseline matrix that you have to collect. LOC and FE estimation are distinct estimation techniques and things. So if you begin with a bounded statement, okay, of software scope, it is quite easier to estimate the things. If you begin with the unbounded statement, means the scope is yet not defined, it is quite difficult to what you can say to estimate the software thing. So baseline productivity metrics like line of code prepare per month or function point prepare or implemented per month are then applied. That is what is a productivity matrix. Means how many line of code, executable program line of code that you actually uh, there may be a problem. Please check our official WhatsApp group. I'm not using. Maybe students are not getting the link to the session. I don't know what exactly happening, but the only thing is that the system is there. This is automated system. Okay, so students may not be getting the link due to certain criteria they haven't satisfied. So I won't have any control on that. So if they satisfy those, what you can say, the criterias, they will automatically start getting the links. Okay, uh, so that's the thing. Now when this line of code is used as the estimation variable, decomposition is absolutely essential. And so that is what, for example, for each line of 1,000 line of code, company is paying to the developer. So many times the developer unnecessarily adds those lines into the code which are of no importance in a program. So you have to find out the actual functional line and likewise. And so some companies, instead of considering the line of code, goes for the function point per month. That is whether your function or your software actually help to the things or not. Then for function point estimates, decomposition works differently. So instead of focusing on function, each of the information domain characteristic, inputs, output, data files, inquiries, external interfaces, there are these type of 14 complexity adjustment values are estimated for such thing. So regardless of this estimation variable that is used, we must have to begin with the estimating a range of values for each function. For example, you may go with the function information domain value, and you can say that is, you can also use the historical data when other things fails. Intuition, the estimation, estimate and optimistic most likely, or you can go with the pessimistic size and something. So implement implicit indication of this degree of uncertainty is provided when this range of values is specified. For example, let's say suppose you are having a model to design and develop, and you estimated that this model will be get developed within a month and the cost involved is 50,000 rupees. But what happens, say that is after verification test, you said okay, but validation said no, this is not what we say require. So you once have to go back and you have to design and develop everything. So when you are designing and developing everything, once again, what we call say it is a failed. So you have to go with the historical data and you require to go. So what is pessimistic size says that, so no matter what we do, the customer is going to say no. So based on that, you go with the pessimistic size and likewise. Okay. So Putnam and Mesh suggest that the results of each of these sizing approaches be combined statistically, because software is an intangible product, so totally depend upon the customer satisfaction likewise, and so we require to use this. So what we say that is S can be computed, that is a size weighted average of optimistic, so that is S of most likely, as M as a S mid or pessimistic as a S space, and so the size is generally get with this s of plus 4 sm plus s space divided by 6, and this is what is gives the heaviest credence to the most likely estimate. This is put forth by Putnam and Mayer's formula for estimating the size of the estimation. Once this expected value for this estimation determined from this historical LOC and FP productivity, we have to find out whether the estimates are correct or not. So first thing is that whenever you start any project, whatever estimate we are having is not never been correct. Just take the example of this COVID-19 epidemic. When India started the lockdown, what we expected or estimated that within the 7 days or 14 days of lockdown, the corona is going to pass. But it's not happened, so we extended that lockdown. It's not happened, so we extended that lockdown. So it's not happened, so we then given right of extension to lockdown to the states and likewise. So it goes on and likewise. And now we found that corona we have to learn to live with this new virus and novel corona COVID-19, and so now we are going with the unlocking. So this is what we can say estimate correctness. So we are never be sure that is estimates are correct. That's why it's called as the estimates. But estimate are correct if they are fact based in many times, or they actually gives you some you can say ideas. So the estimation techniques, no matter how sophisticated, should have to be cross checked with different approaches, and should we have to, and it says that is no matter how technologically we are advanced, this is the only thing which prevails, and that is called as the common sense. I don't know why it is called as a common, because it is rarely found in the people, so it is a quite uncommon sense. So it's required. So most common techniques for estimating project is to base the estimate. This thing process is decomposed into relatively small set of tasks, and for every task you are having, so process based estimation can also be done. This is a table of process based estimation example adapted from the book of Roger Pressman, Software Engineering, a Practitioner's Approach. So here your program, what is the functions are given, and for every function is said analysis will require zero point 0.5, what you can say, dollar, or say what you can say the time. When you say time, so time estimation and say the total efforts are calculated in terms of percentage, and totals are given here. Okay, so consider this zero point 0.5 is the, consider 2.5 is for designing, zero point 0.5 because designing require testing of the design, and so you go in the cycle. Then coding requires zero point 0.4 because if your design is proper, coding require hardly some time. And once again testing is there because you require to do the rigorous testing. This is a 5.0. Now if you consider this in terms of a dollar, okay, and if you consider this dollar in terms of k, that is you require 0.5 k dollar, 2.5 k dollar, 0.4 k dollar, and 5 k dollar. Likewise you can come up with the 8.4 k dollar is the estimated cost for designing this function EICF like this. Okay, and this is what they say in estimation. So the function problem, it's activities melded. This part, average labor rates also have to cost, that is cost unit effort, and cost and effort for this each process based estimation is performed. So if you go through this process based estimation, you have to consider it, you have to find out what the process activities. So any process is actually the combination of different activities, and so how these process activities are melded, that you have to find out, and for each activity you have to give some things. Now when you are doing this, a person is doing something, so person months. So when you say 5 months of working on done on this, it's not saying the 5 months. You consider that is a 1 month person actually work for the 30 days, that is a month, and so five people work for the 30 days means 5 months. Like what you can say person months required. So software plus activity of it. average labor rate that you require to calculate, because this is what you can say the unit effort you have to pay the people while designing and developing software. Cost and effort for each function and framework activity required to be computed as a last step. And this again here you require to use many time your common sense for the computation instead of going with a strict mathematics. So process-based estimation is performed independently of this line of code and the function point estimation. And many time process-based estimation actually dominates this LOC and FP in a good reasons for the conductions and likewise. So if you see this, developing that an estimation approach with use cases is problematic, because what happens, say this is what we can say estimation with use cases. This is a one method, decomposition technique, because use cases are generally what you can say go on varying or changing with time. And so if you estimate some project with the primary use case or primary analysis, you require to recalculate the estimation with the new forms and likewise, and that's why it is a problematic one thing given by this some in 99. So use cases are described using many different formats. Use case represent external view of the system, so many times the internal intricacies and complexity of system is not you can see given by the use cases. They do not address the complexity of functions or the inside. Use case only describe the complex behavior, but if when it comes to implementing the operation to carry out those behaviors, use cases have no what you can say on that, and that's why use case based estimations are not that you can say popular uh, here. So unlike this LOC and function point, one person's use case may require months of effort while another person's use case may be implemented in a day or two. And that's why the estimating the cost of your software based on the use cases create some what you can say something a skewed decision making, and that's why it is not used completely. So what is then we have to do? We have to actually use all these methods together to to find out the what you can say the mean of all these. So Smith in 1999 actually given this structural hierarchy, and this described. So he's given this hierarchy can be described by no more than 10 use cases. So he says that for every function you should have to have the 10 use cases most, and based on that you can go. That means the use case modeling must have to be done in a design itself. But thing is that this approach is still not practical, and it's not used. Means so average length. So again, the type of softwares also is there, which actually required to take in consideration while estimating the cost of the thing, and rough architecture for system that you have to. So these are the things that it says. So as per this Smith, this LOC estimate is equal to N into LOC average into SA into SH minus 1, PA, PH minus 1, LOC, where this N is the actual number of use cases. LOC average is the historical average line of code per use case written. Okay, and subsystem, the LOC average represents this adjustment, or you can see the modification that we have done into the line of code for as per in the optimization based on this average. Then SA is the actual scenarios, or the number of scenarios that are the number of operations or functionalities in your program. For example, file, edit, tool, view, help, all these are the number of scenarios. As such, it's the average scenarios per use case. Means for, say suppose I want to create a new file, so what are the operations involved in that? So sh means click on the new file, work on the new file, save new file, or save as the new file. So I'm involving around 5 to 4 operation. That is sh average scenarios. So 4 scenarios are required there. for the type of subsystem. PA is the actual page per use case. So to draw these use cases or to write down what you can see the notations for these use cases, whatever the work area that we use, that is the per page of the use case, and PH is the average pages. So maybe for each case you require 10 to 15 pages. Now one page may be depend upon this type of subsystem, and that are used for these LOC use cases to calculate. So if you have any questions, any queries or doubt about these decomposition techniques, software project estimation, you can raise the questions. Yes, uh, Raunak talk about this WhatsApp group and something, but no one is asking the questions. Okay. Don't go with this cartoon. This that before you speak, ask yourself if what you are going to say is true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind. The answer is no. You should not have to speak. That is what they say. So that is what you can say. Think means, and we have to follow this thing. Thing. Asma, Ajay, Anoop, they have closed their windows. Race. So I'm expecting some few questions from your side. Many of you have given the answers. Sorry, this many of you, many students actually have. If you are not having any questions, then we'll go with the next presentation on in this unit. Okay. So I'm just minimizing this and opening the uh, fourth slide of the lecture and the testing. No one is asking questions, so I'm considering that you are actually having no questions. Means either you have understood everything or you are actually not have these things. So let's go with this lecture 4 start. Okay, question and answer. One question is asked. Getting the link. Can take a brief revision of unit 3 and 4 for C2. That is not a question, that what you can say the request. Okay, what is unit number 3 and 4? Let's see. Brief revision. So I can go with that brief revision of unit number 3 and 4. So let's see how we using the syllabus. So in the syllabus, you are having unit number 3 as a software analyst, this engineering. Okay, and then here are the testing. So in the testing and this unit number 3, that is behavioral model UML concept that we have seen in UML diagram drawing. Okay, so you are given with something like an what you can say. Let me. Uh, you will be given with the problems, or you can say questions will be asked. Let's say unit number 3 on design process, principal quality, software architecture, alternative architecture, component based designing, and UML things. So all those things will be asked. Say for example, if you go with the interface analysis design, in the design and analysis in interface, we, we may have asked the questions on what are the what you can say user interface and why it is required to analyze. For example, interface analysis, the key what you can say, then you have to give answers accordingly. For example, if the question is right, say give the you can say the testing, what are the methods to test the user interface, then you can say that is a based on the type of user interface there are different methods. So for command line user interface you can go for the interfaces where you have to check whether the command line user interface works properly or not. Okay, then you are in the graphical user interface, then pointing devices, touchscreen devices, they work properly or not. For that purpose you require to write down a test case and likewise. So if you go with the unit number 3 and 4, if you go through the slides, it is possible. Now around say 16 hours of this unit number 3 and 4, it's impossible to cover up that within a few minutes uh, of the thing. So for example, right now, okay, so if you go with this unit number 4 is about the testing. So you are having the different testing techniques. So you simply have to go through these testing techniques. Unit number 4, what are the testing techniques? Actually your unit number 4 is completely defined in this slide itself, because you are having this unit testing, integration testing, top down integration, bottom up, and all those testings are there. So if you see these testings, these are the characteristics, integration likewise, and you have to see all these testing things. So if even if you go through your syllabus, okay, so strategic approach to software testing, and you can say what is the importance of that. This type of questions may be asked. For example, it can ask you the question like what are the generic characteristics of the software testing strategy. So you can say a strategic approach to software testing or a software testing strategy should have to have following generic characteristics, and you can go with the this detail thing, and that is what uh, the answer may be. Or you can say I can the question may be like this: what will be the different thing, or what is the difference between a verification and validation? In that case you should have to give the difference between verification and validation. So you know that is what is verification, okay, and what is validation. These are the similar thing. The only thing is that when you say verification, your software is actually tested by those people who are expert in the software engineering, or they are the engineer or the technical people. And the validation is something when your software is actually accepted by your customer, or in a true term by the market. So you have to give answer accordingly. Now let's say suppose if you are asked with a question like say that is there is a small system, and on that system you have to design and develop a particular software. What are the approaches that you will like to check? For example, for bank transaction system, what will be the software testing approaches you would like to use? So you can say that in a verification you will like to check whether the transaction is reversible, or you can say revocable. For example, so suppose if you go with a zero no loss tasteless transactions, what we call, and then means if someone transfer the money, and in between if the link goes down or if something happens, it must have to be get revert back to its original position. So the bank transaction should have to be happen only if and if the money get transacted properly. And likewise validation, that you also have to check for this validation whether market accepted your application or not, and likewise. So you can go with all those things. So it is quite difficult to say. So if you see this VV, verification and validation, you can write this answer simple, yes. So you can say, now you can go with the software testing strategy. Then this you can explain with this diagram. This is the must diagram for a software testing strategy, because you have to say what is the software testing. You first create whatever the analysis, that analysis actually create the unit testing. So what we create a simple model. A model is called as a unit. In object oriented software engineering, class is the unit. So you are actually checking the class. And what is class? Class is a class name, all the attributes and all operations. While object is the instance of that class and may not have all the attributes and all the operations available. For example, person is a class. Okay. but ASR or AS Rumale is the object of a class person. So the name is Anirudh, but this is not true with you. Yes, your name is different. Means say suppose if you Ajay Borde becomes the object, then Ajay is the name. If the Raunak Goje becomes the object, then Raunak is the name of the class person. Yes, so you go with that thing. So the attribute changes, and according to that attribute, many operations may changes. So that is what you are checking in the unit testing. Integration testing means to have a system. In a system, you have many different classes or many different models, and they require to collaborate with each other. So there you require to check the integration. Okay, means whether they collaborate with each other or not. Now comes the verification and validation testing, because validation or the verification actually comes from the customer. They should have to accept whatever you have developed, whether they accept it or not. So just simply speaking, validation testing have nothing to do with the technical intricacies. It simply do how actually deal with the whether your application works correctly or not. If your application works correctly, you can say it is valid. Okay, and last is once it is validated, you once again check the system for the entire what you can say operations after deployment, and then that is what you can say the testing strategy, the big picture. The same explanation is given here, okay, in the slides that you can write as a answer. So you will get the questions. You may get some type of thing that is uh, what are a thing, but a thing is that unit number 3 and unit number 4, they combiningly actually gives you the complete idea about the principles and philosophies of software engineering. I think you got your request satisfied, Pranav? Yes, obviously you will have the questions from unit number 3 also, as well as unit number 4. So I means in your CAE, the first part of your CAE, if you have the 4 question, 2 questions will be from unit number 3 and 2 questions will be from unit number 4. Like that means 10 marks weightage is for the unit number 3 and 10 mark weightage is for the unit number 4. This is what the thing is. Okay. um, System thread based and use case based. Thread based system means that when you are in the object, sorry, when you are in the class, what is the class here? A person class, login thing. Okay, right now we are using this WebEx. So we are including me. There are total 46 people who are actually in this session. Yes, so I am logging into the session. You are logging into the session. Webex created thread for us. Okay, for all you, it created the single type of thread which is of type attendee. But this is a array thread. Array thread means there are total 45 threads created for each attendee. Okay, and all those threads are connected to the thread of you can say host, that is me. Okay, so 40, this is a 46 thread, and there is a one mechanism, a server. So thread based testing is the testing where it try to find out whether all these threads communicate with each other or not properly. So it is deal with the intricacy, or what you can say the programming details. Now comes the use based testing. Use based testing here means I am logging into the system. I am clicking on a particular operation. For example, I click here on operation shared my desktop. So whether this desktop is accessible to the attendee thread or not. Okay, if it is accessible to you, that means use based testing is done. Okay, if it is not accessible, that means there is some problem and you have to work on that. So when we say thread based testing or use based testing, they are all depend on the use cases. Okay, so use cases gives you the behavior of the software, and the behavior of your software gives you what exactly you want to implement, what type of program you want to implement. That's all. Cyclomatic complexity. See, you're trying to what you can say, uh, go with all those. Cyclomatic complexity is something that actually deal with the what we call as the complexity in a program itself. Okay, and if you go through the slide on this cyclomatic complexities and other thing, object oriented black box testing and thing, you will learn this. Okay, so you can go through these control blocks and likewise. So when we say cyclomatic complexity here, okay, so it's try to find out the what say path. So it is the what we can call as intricacies developed software metric that provides a quantitative measure of the logical complexity of a program. So when you are having a program which is very difficult to handle, it's a very complex program. For example, let's say suppose you want to send data securely from right now whichever program we are using it, the WebEx is a complex program. So what is the cyclomatic complexity of this program? That should have to be calculated, and that calculation is done using the logical complexity of this program. So logical complexity of this program and the cyclomatic is defined using some you can say asymptotic mathematical values. Asymptotic means assume. Okay, so the considers defines the number of independent paths in the basis set of a program. So right now we are having 45 attendees here, and I am the what you can say the initial node. So how many what can say threads are there? Total 45 threads from my side. And if you consider me as a thread, then there are total 46 threads, and these threads require to communicate with each other. And so what is the cyclomatic complexity of this is a 46. That is what we can say the thing. So it actually defines the basis different paths. So how many paths are here? Total 46 paths, but actually this is not the 46 path only. If you consider ourselves as the node in the graph, there are total 46 nodes, and all these nodes require to be get connected with each other using all the independent paths. Then there actually exist, okay, how many paths? 46 independent path from my side, 46 45 independent path from your side. So it's actually 45 into 45, okay, paths. Those many paths are there, and that is what we call as a cyclomatic complexity. So it actually provides with an upper bound and lower bound and the calculation. So these generally use when you are trying to do something what we call as a uh, programs where we require to handle the number of users in a program. For example, let's say suppose you are on a website like Amazon. Okay, you don't know exactly what how many customers are going to log in at a given time. Okay, so the what is the cyclomatic complexity of that is very high. So when we say very high, we can't set it to the infinity. So what then we have to set it where you have to set it. So let's say suppose from India, expected market population is 3 crore. Okay, which can log in at any given time t. Okay, so say suppose at getting given time t means right now it is 1:20 p.m. So let's say at 1:21 p.m. 3 crore people is going to log in into the Amazon site, and already login peoples are consider around 5 crore. So 5 plus 3 crore, those many paths required to be uh, have, and 5 plus 3 crore paths are the independent paths. Okay, so that is the cyclomatic complexity, and this complexity is varying, continuously varying in a program. And so when this logical complexity, that what we call say, and that there you require to consider that variation. So there has the foundation in a graph here. So what we say the number of node and number of edges. So it's totally depend upon the entire thing. So if you go through this basis path testing on cyclomatic complexity, you will find this. Okay, and for further what you can say knowledge, I strongly suggest you to go through the book of Roger Pressman, Software Engineering Practitioner Approach, sixth edition onwards. Means either you can go through the sixth edition, or you can go through the seventh, eighth, ninth, whichever editions are available to you for the cyclomatic complexity. If you want to know more about it, you can then use the Google search for software engineering testing, cyclomatic complexity, how to calculate it, and why it is important in software engineering, software development. You will get detailed, you can say, thing. But if you really want to know about all this, because so many times these cyclomatic complexities and required to be done for creating some web servers or some very complex softwares which actually used to handle uh, millions and billions of transactions. Okay. Any question? Only one person is asking the questions. I really like that attitude and what kinds of things, because asking question is the sign of good student. You should have to ask such a question which must have to throw challenge to your teacher, because when you ask the question after the end of a lecture to your mentor, just not me, anybody, okay, that actually give you the what you can say the exact what actually give your teacher or your mentor to learn the things. Model based testing is not something very difficult. Model based testing means is simply like that. You want to become a good cricketer. So, which will be your role model? Yeah, obviously Sachin Tendulkar. Okay, you won't like Sachin Tendulkar, then Dhoni. Not Dhoni, then Ravi Shastri, Gavaskar, Kapil Dev. Okay, I know these names only. Because I myself don't like the cricket very much. But let's consider this. So, what you are having a role model. So, what is model-based testing is actually means that whenever you want to design and develop your software, okay, it's actually given here MBT. So whenever you actually want to design and develop your software, you actually uh, take the information from the requirement model spaces, and generally from the pre-existing or say systems. So this pre-existing system means you want to create a e-shopee website. You already have the different e-shopee websites there. So whenever you create your website, you check the operations of your website in comparison with the pre-existing models, and that is what we call as the MBT. This actually help you in building your software in a very easy way. MBT is maximally used in web development, because many times whenever you want to design, say for example right now if you want to design a search engine, obviously your role model is Google. You want to design a e-shopee, your role model is Amazon. You want to design something, let's say suppose a digital signature creation, your role model will be VeriSign, like that. So you go with the role model of the websites. Or if you do not want to rely only on the one model, what you will see, you will see, to see a set of different sites. For example, e-shopee made what you can say create, you may analyze Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, and you'll find all the feature lists and function lists in that, and then your own e-shop, and you'll try to site, and you'll try to find out whether all the functionalities of these three sites are implemented in your site or not, and that is what we call as a model based testing or model based comparison. Okay, now this is already 126, and I'm in a training of the MHRD, this initiative for startup, and likewise as a dean. So right now I stop with that thing. I wishes you the best luck for CE2, and I ask you people to find out what exactly the problem happens this by asking to your cities and likewise. Okay, thank you very much for being with me for this long with this lecture, and thank you all. I'm ending the session now. If, okay, thanks.